everybody, it's me, Amy from 3D Lash and Brow and Aspire with Amy, and I'm super excited to be here today on my podcast, so thank you guys for listening. But I wanted to talk about something that has been getting on my nerves, y'all. I mean, on my last nerves. And it recently just started trending, and it's called quiet quitting. And I don't know if you guys have heard about it or seen it recently on Instagram, but it all started basically from the pandemic. And this past 2 years has really just shifted a lot of people's mindsets on what it is to work, how we work in the workplace, especially from working from home or hybrid. So it's just changed a lot of people's thinking. And so the definition of quiet quitting is remaining in one's workplace while not actively going above and beyond. And I'm like, what does that even really mean? Like, to me, it means basically you're doing the bare minimum to keep your job. And I completely disagree with that point of view, that perspective. And not just because I'm currently a CEO or a boss and now I have my own employees, but I had to kind of stop and think back when I was an employee, what that meant and what work-life balance meant, and how I can kind of make some kind of sense of everything. So I remember when I was working, basically, I would do my best. And the reason why I would do my best is because I always came from the standpoint of biblical. And the scripture that came to mind when I was thinking about this was Colossians 3:23, verse 24. Okay, coming from the scripture, Colossians 3:23 to 24, and it says, "Whatever you do, work heartily as for the Lord and not for men, knowing that from the Lord you will receive the inheritance as your reward." And when I first saw that scripture, it really impacted me because a lot of times you think, oh, I'm just working to make the boss rich, or I'm just doing this, or they don't appreciate me. But when you have the perspective that this is actually for the Lord and He is actually seeing the hard work that you do, because your promotion doesn't come from necessarily your boss. Those open doors don't always come from your boss. It comes from the God. Okay, because He is our source of income. So for all my quiet quitters out there, what you put in is what you're gonna get out. So if you have that mindset, like I'm only gonna do the bare minimum, you probably are not gonna be looked at for your next raise or promotion. And I find it funny because it tends to be my quiet quitters who are the first to ask for the raise. And I wanna be like, girl, you have not done nothing to be, you're doing just your job. Like what, just because you're like, I made my 90 days. What I will say is that in order to get to the next level, you do have to overcome adversity. You do have to stretch and grow. So if you are completely comfortable in your position, that means you're most likely gonna stay there. When you are being stretched and learning things that you've never done or being asked to raise your level to the next height, that's when you're gonna see that promotion and elevation in your career, not just in your career, but spiritually, physically, anything. Because again, if you go to the gym all the time and you're just doing the bare minimum, you're not gonna see the results. And that's the same as work, okay? So don't just think, oh, I'm just doing this for my boss. You're doing it for yourself. And every experience that you get in your job, you can take that somewhere else. So if your boss asks you to try something and that may not be in your job description, yes, obviously we do not want to work ourselves to death. And I think where this mindset is coming from is the different generations. We have the millennials and we have the baby boomers. And I guess the baby boomers and the millennials, we work, we grind, and it's the Gen Zs who are like, you want me to say past how long? So, and I myself, I'm actually, I guess I'm a millennial. I'm 37. Am I a millennial? Yeah, I'm a millennial. So I'm 37. So I did come from the generation where you did not call into sick. You needed to work. If you didn't work, you don't get fed. So I never called into sick. I never called in sick. I always showed up on time. I always went above and beyond, and I usually made my goals or was the first to get promoted. And so even I take this into my being a boss, I still have to have that same mindset. And when I'm hiring for people, I'm looking for that same leadership qualities as well, that I'm not gonna wait for this person to tell me what I need to do when I can think and anticipate what is the needs of the company, or what is the needs of my boss, or what's the needs of my role and position, so that I can accelerate and grow with this company. So yes, just know that you are not only a reflection for yourself, but you are representing God in all things that you do. And so that having that perspective has really just elevated me, especially when there are times when I did not want to show up or do my best, but I had to remember that God gave me this, and every opportunity to wake up each day is a blessing. Every time that you even are able to clock in and have some income coming in is a blessing. So please, I'm telling you, all my quiet quitters, do not take it for granted what you have. And if you're not happy in your position, leave. Get the step in. Like you did, at least in Texas, it's an at-will state, so you don't have to be anywhere. And if you're trying to go somewhere, make a plan to have it. But while you're in that position, do your best, because you never know when that reference will be called. You never know who was with you and they say, oh, well, I worked with this person, but she always had an attitude, or I worked with this person and she was late, or she never put in that much effort. You know, you don't want that reputation to follow you. Even if you decide to open up your own business, how you were as an employee is usually how you're going to run your business. I was speaking to one of my podcasters, Lanice, the last show, and she said how you are as an employee is usually how you're going to be as a boss, and that really stuck out to me. So I said all of that to say, remember, this is for the Lord. And thank you guys so much for listening to Aspire with Amy. And please follow us on social media at 3dlashandbrow.com or the website Aspire with Amy. And I hope this really resonated with my millennials and my Gen Zs. So stay tuned for our next podcast, and goodbye.